got one actually. Yeah. I will. I'll make a fool of myself eating a donut. Get jam all over my face. It's quite a job getting all of this done right and accurate, because these days people want it right, they want it accurate, and that applies all the way across the board with this kind of stuff. And behind me here is one of the guns that Jim's tractor would have pulled, the 90mm anti-aircraft gun. Hell of a piece of work.
Gun weighs 9.5 tonne. The actual balance of it is absolutely spot on.
So even though it's 9.5 tonne, it would have been relatively easy to pull behind the tractor.
Yeah, the tractor pulled it with dead easy. And the men operating it, that's the thing. The tractor has got plenty of power, but the men operating this, having to lift the arms down and operate the suspension and everything.
And for the young lads who used to work on and fire this weapon, life must have been extremely interesting. He's busy restoring it at the minute and was hoping to take it to Normandy, but international laws on taking guns across borders make things difficult. So that's not going to happen, but it's going to be on the road soon as a living exhibit.
And sure enough, after a lot of hard work, late nights, fair dollop of cash, the gun, tractor and transport were ready to show. Unfortunately, we couldn't get them across to Normandy because apparently the French don't like the idea of high velocity guns being in close proximity to high ranking heads of state. Call me a little bit picky, but it would have been okay by me. As we've identified in other parts of the show, the battle for Normandy, the Overlord, the D-Day landings, it wasn't just about Normandy. The build-up and the anticipation was also in England, where troops assembled and machines assembled, British, American, Canadian, French, Polish, Czech, a whole raft of people. And especially this year, the magnitude of the D-Day events was so embedded in the British psyche, that blow for freedom, that there was a plethora of small country fairs, military shows, historical events happening all over the country.
There are lots of little parties and fetes, memorial events going on around here.
And with some trepidation, Jim loaded up the tractor and the gun onto our friend's trailer, and we set off for Chalk Valley historical event in Wiltshire. The tank followed later in the day. With an overall length of about 40 feet and approximately 30 tons, it was a tight fit all round. And getting down those small, narrow English country lanes was not an easy job. It was similar to what the Allies would have had in the last war. And so after 8 or 9 years of hard work, long days, late nights,
Jim has managed to get his gun and his tractor up and working and ready for show. And he's rather proud of it, rightfully so. This is Chalk Valley History Event, a place for serious reenactors. As you might see behind me, there is a mock-up of a typhoon. And it's full of fantastic characters, interesting people, and meticulous research. Everything here is accurate. For once in England, my God, it's bloody hot. Even this time of the morning.
We're going to be meeting people from many periods of history. Napoleonic wars, kings, naval people, gun people, all different sorts, even traction engines. And some of guys who are depicting my old regiment as they fought at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. And historical author and ringmaster James Holland was conducting affairs with his usual aplomb.
And a few other celebrities as well.
As the crowds gathered and the questions poured out from interested bystanders, Jim was obviously a very, very proud guy. He was helped out by Paul Woodidge on some of the history of that gun and others like it and how they were used during the war.
There's a flight of 12 Messerschmitts coming in at 10,000 feet, let's say, okay? So what this would do, this gun, and it's all done by the computer. They'd work out that we're going to use the lazy W today. Now, the lazy W is like a wide W shape. What they're trying to do is they're going to try and put a big W shape up in the sky so that when the aircraft come in, they hit that and they fly into explosions. So what would happen is the computer and the observers would say, yes, these aircraft are at 10,000 feet. In the nose of the shell is a fuse, and you can set that to detonate after a certain number of seconds. And the number of seconds would be how far in the air you would want it to go off. And this thing can fire straight up about 13,000 meters, across about 19,000 meters. You're firing straight up in the sky, so it goes far. So if you know the enemy aircraft are flying at 10,000 feet by the rangefinder, you know that you want these shells to explode at 10,000 feet, which is a certain number of seconds, let's say 8 seconds. So as each, and it's very quick to do, there's a gadget on the side of the gun, each fuse is just immediately set to this 8-second thing, put it in the gun, a few seconds later the guy sitting on the side fires it, and this is being done in conjunction with another 3 guns or maybe another 12 guns to create this shape that has been predetermined, so that when the aircraft come along, and it's all timed, we've worked out the speed of the aircraft, we know they should be arriving in 10 minutes time, so that when they arrive they'll fly in this carpet of exploding shells. And you can imagine this full of high explosives. If that goes off within a few feet of your aircraft, that's it, you're down, you're shot down. All that metal slices through the air, you hit your propeller, hits your engine, you're crashed. So that's the role of an anti-aircraft gun and what it's supposed to do.
We had a long day in the heat, partaking in a battle reenactment, which is great fun but very, very tiring and noisy. So after that long day of charging around in the tank, we were tired, grimy and very, very thirsty. So as the general public, who had been well entertained, drifted off to their warm, cosy homes, we thought maybe we should just get a couple of beers to slake our thirst.
Leave the trip to the hospital now. Knees smashed off.
I've just crashed landed by typhoon.
Just come in.
Yes, that's what. Yes.
You're very smart as well.
Thank you.
Are you two going steady these days?
Steady.
Steady.
One. We've got the 745th Tank Battalion.
Oh yes.
Technical Sergeant, which will be the tank driver, which is me. Surprising how many people don't realise that this is privately owned vehicles.
Yeah, is that right?
I've had 4 or 5 today, can't believe that you can own a tank or a tractor and a gun. They just think it's owned by the army, and we're just operating that. And you say, no, this is mine, I bought it in such a date or whatever, and they just don't believe it.
No?
You really have got to say, yeah, no bull. It's
In the cold light of day the next morning, with a few sore heads, it was up to us now to disassemble the gun, pack it up, put it on the back of the tractor, and get the tractor back onto the low loader to take it back home. It was not an easy task. The guys who did this originally were young, fit, and very, very well rehearsed and drilled in what they had to do. I think we were just the opposite of all of those. When you consider that all we'd had was a brief look at a manual from 1942 and promptly forgotten it, and that the gun and the pieces attached now weighed about 9 tons. It was quite a strenuous affair, and to be honest, we did a pretty good job. Nobody fell out with anybody too much. Even the diminutive kit was being useful.
I do believe you're being hurtful. I resent that statement. I'm being a little person. There are many members to my fault.
We can bring him out, tractor up now.
We'll have you.
Tip that.
We're going at the moment. We're going on a little bit of an angle.
Now you bring your end line.
Well,
The gun was proving more difficult to actually hook up and fold away than we'd actually anticipated. So some extra help was drafted in from the ground staff of the show. And it quickly became chefs, chiefs, Indians, cooks brought too many spoils.
I'll tell you what. Push it right down. Yeah. Pull the bar out, push it down, push the bar down. Push it down, here we go.
It seemed we were going nowhere until Jamie decided to display some of his precise engineering skills.
Kit, his favourite, jump on that tube you see in the middle there.
That was probably the wrong decision because we picked the smallest guy in the team to do this, and the lightest. Result, nothing. The level of technique, precision and skill involved was awe-inspiring.
Bugger, it just doesn't fit.
Can't put that in there. Not making any difference whatsoever.
In the absence of success, some mechanical muscle was called in. And to befuddled looks from passers-by, more boogie on and down with the pistons, we were starting to make some kind of progress.
I got to go over that way a little bit.
Jim fired up the mighty motor and ever so delicately backed the tractor up into the right position. That success finally hooked up. And with a little bit of help from some passing Boy Scouts, the heavy splay legs were folded back into position. A little bit more wiggling, it was then onto the fold-up floor pans, which just didn't seem to fit where we'd taken them from. We were graced by the presence of a well-known Tory MP, who came to tell us how to do things and check about it. In the distance you hear a shot. Mind you, it was nice to see him upright for a change. With more huffing and puffing, sweating and swearing, we finally got things together. Tractor was hooked up to the gun and we started to manoeuvre it to take it off the showground. The Luftwaffe's nightmare had made its first appearance with its gun. An almost exact replica of what would have happened in 1944, even down to the sign writing. Jim has the full history of this tractor and its gun and can pinpoint it to being 4 days after D-Day it arrived on the Normandy shores. And it's been accredited with Harold Mueller, one of the men that were on the truck, that it was the first anti-aircraft gun to shoot down a German plane on French soil. So there you are. She was there, she did work, and now she's back running again. So in glorious sunshine, we left Chalk Valley Historical Event. A fantastic weekend, full of fun, games, interesting people, interesting things. We learned a lot. It was a great weekend. Really, really can recommend this. Now we have to get Hitler's crawling coffin onto the low loader. And that's approximately 40 feet and weighs 23.5 tons. Not an easy job, so we need careful hands and some steady nerves. Kit and Jamie work their magic with the chains and fasteners, and the tractor and gun are safe and secure on the back of the truck, ready for the 70-mile drive back home. Are you happy with your toy?
Very happy. Very pleased, yeah. It's totally unique. Chuffed a bit, so it's
No doubt it's been one of the great stars of the show, hasn't it?
definitely, yeah. Proud to it. Only one in private hands in Europe, as far as I know. I don't know of any others in, well, I guess a couple in the States maybe, but they're certainly not restored. They certainly don't have the tractor, the whole outfit. I've got the whole lot. So it's... You have a race with the dog's bollocks? The dogs do that. She looks good. Thank you, Edward. It's been a pleasure working with you again.
Thank you, James. It's been always mine.
Oh, it's always been mutual, surely. It's always a bit of give and take, darling.
Get a 90mm anti-aircraft gun and its high-speed tractor onto a truck. With a bit of skill, well, a lot of skill, a lot of nerve.
Stop hitting me in those negative ways, my RC.
And that
ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is what can be described as an excellent weekend. Bloody great. Met so many good people, so many good things, and learnt so much. Thank you. That's damn good living history.